Amelia Shaw had crossed the frozen Yukon 100 times in her floatplane. When engine failure forced her down onto a frozen lake 200 miles from anywhere, she woke to spring arriving early and ice melting fast. She had 6 hours to reach solid ground before the lake swallowed everything. This is one of the most extraordinary survival races against time ever recorded. She knew ice, knew cold, knew survival. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Amelia Shaw ran her pre-flight checklist at 6 in the morning, her breath crystallizing in air so cold it burned her lungs. 25 below zero, standard March weather in Whitehorse. She'd made the supply run to Eagle Creek Mining Camp 47 times in the last 2 years. The routine was carved into muscle memory. Check fuel lines, test control surfaces, verify cargo weight distribution, inspect the floats even though they'd be useless until spring thaw. Tom Brewster, the airport's weather officer, walked out to her plane holding a steaming cup of coffee. "Morning, Amelia. You see the forecast update?" She glanced up from checking the oil. "What update?" "Warm front moving in faster than predicted. Could hit by tomorrow afternoon. Temperature might climb 20 degrees. Amelia wiped oil from the dipstick. 20 degrees still puts us at 5 below. I'll be back tonight. Just saying, this front's unusual for March, moving fast. She'd heard weather concerns 1,000 times. The Yukon didn't care about forecasts. It did what it wanted. "I appreciate it, Tom, but I've flown in worse." He nodded and walked back to his office, leaving boot prints in the snow. Amelia loaded the cargo, mining equipment, food supplies, medical kits, replacement parts. 300 pounds total. She strapped everything down with practiced efficiency, double-checking each tie-down. Her father had taught her that bush flying meant respecting the small details. One loose cargo strap could shift weight mid-flight and kill you. She climbed into the cockpit of her de Havilland Beaver, a 40-year-old workhorse that had crossed these mountains more times than she could count. The leather seat was frozen stiff. Ice crusted the inside of the windscreen. She started the pre-start checklist, fingers numb even through her gloves. Her satellite phone buzzed. A text from her daughter Emma. "Be safe, Mom. Love you." Amelia smiled and typed back, "Always am. Home by dinner. Love you, too." She pocketed the phone, noting the battery was at 30%. She'd meant to charge it last night, but fell asleep reviewing maintenance logs. No matter. She'd be back in 8 hours. The engine coughed to life, propellers spinning through cold air. She let it warm up, watching the temperature gauges climb slowly. Oil pressure, good. Fuel flow, normal. All systems reading green. Tower cleared her for takeoff. She taxied to the runway, ran through final checks, and pushed the throttle forward. The Beaver accelerated down the frozen strip, skis chattering against packed snow, then lifted into gray dawn sky. Whitehorse fell away beneath her. She climbed to 7,000 feet, heading northwest toward Eagle Creek. Below, endless forest stretched in every direction, broken occasionally by frozen lakes that looked like white scars on dark earth. Beautiful and deadly. This was country that killed people who made mistakes. The flight was smooth, clear skies, light winds. Amelia relaxed into the rhythm of flying, scanning instruments every few seconds, adjusting trim, monitoring the engine. 90 minutes to Eagle Creek. She'd unload, grab lunch with the camp supervisor, and be wheels up by noon. She had no idea that in 40 minutes everything would change. The engine coughed. Amelia's hand went immediately to the throttle, eyes snapping to the tachometer. RPM dropped 50, then recovered. Probably nothing. Probably just cold fuel vaporizing unevenly. But her pulse quickened anyway. She was 90 miles northwest of Whitehorse, flying over terrain that offered no good landing options. Dense forests stretched in every direction, broken only by the occasional frozen lake. The temperature gauge showed -18, warmer than when she'd taken off, but still cold enough for ice. The engine coughed again. This time it didn't recover as quickly. "Come on, girl," Amelia muttered, adjusting the mixture. The RPM stabilized but felt rough, like the engine was missing on one cylinder. She recognized the problem immediately. Carburetor ice. It happened when moisture in the air froze inside the carburetor, choking off fuel flow. Standard procedure was simple. Apply carburetor heat, which routed warm air from the engine manifold to melt the ice. She pulled the carb heat knob. Nothing happened. The engine roughness got worse. RPM dropping steadily now. She pushed the carb heat knob in and out several times. The cable moved freely, but no heat was reaching the carburetor. The system had failed, probably a broken cable or blocked heat muffler. No. She scanned the instruments. Oil pressure dropping, temperature climbing into the red. The ice had already compromised the carburetor badly enough that the engine was starting to fail. She had maybe 2 minutes before complete engine failure. Amelia keyed the radio. Whitehorse Tower, this is Beaver 47 Tango. I have engine failure in progress. Position 90 miles northwest, altitude 7,000 feet. Attempting forced landing. Static. She tried again. Whitehorse Tower, 47 Tango declaring emergency. More static. The radio was dead. Probably electrical system failing along with everything else. The engine shuddered violently. Black smoke poured from the cowling. RPM dropped below 1,500. She was losing altitude fast, sinking at 500 feet per minute. She scanned the terrain below, mind racing through options. Forest everywhere. Landing in trees meant certain death. But there, 3 miles ahead, a frozen lake. Big one, maybe 2 miles across. Flat, white, perfect emergency landing strip if the ice was thick enough. No choice. It was the lake or nothing. She banked toward it, trading precious altitude for distance. The engine was barely running now, coughing and sputtering, producing just enough power to keep the propeller windmilling. Altitude 4,000 feet, 3,000. The lake was getting closer, but she was dropping fast. 2,000 feet. She could see individual trees now, see the texture of the snow-covered ice. 1,000 feet. The engine died completely. Sudden, terrible silence except for wind rushing past the windscreen. She was gliding now, a 4,000-pound aircraft with no power, falling toward a frozen lake at 60 miles per hour. Amelia's training took over. Trim for best glide speed. Pick a landing spot. Check harness. Tight. Brace position prepared. She aimed for the middle of the lake, away from the shoreline where ice might be thinner. 500 feet. The lake filled her entire windscreen now. 200 feet. She pulled back slightly on the yoke, flaring to reduce descent rate. 50 feet. The floats hit ice. The impact threw Amelia forward against her harness hard enough to knock the wind from her lungs. The float skidded across ice, throwing up plumes of snow and frozen fragments. The plane bounced once, twice, then the right float caught something. A pressure ridge, a crack. She'd never know, and the aircraft spun violently to the right. The world became a blur of white and sky and white again. Metal screamed as the right wing dug into the ice and tore away from the fuselage. The plane flipped, rolled, slid upside down for what felt like forever, but was probably 5 seconds. Then silence. Amelia hung upside down in her harness, head pounding, ears ringing. Blood dripped from somewhere above her. No, below her. She was inverted. She touched her forehead and her glove came away red. The windscreen had shattered, covering everything in crystalline fragments. She tried to move. Pain shot through her left shoulder. She gasped, fought down panic, forced herself to think. Assess injuries. She could move her legs. Good. Wiggle her toes. Yes. Turn her head. Painful but possible. Her left shoulder was either dislocated or separated, and her ribs on that side screamed with every breath. Probably cracked but not broken through, or she'd be having trouble breathing. The cabin was tilted at a crazy angle. Nose down, tail up. She fumbled for the harness release with her right hand. The buckle was jammed. She yanked harder, and it finally gave way. She fell onto the ceiling, now the floor, landing on her injured shoulder. White-hot pain exploded through her body. She bit down on a scream, breathing hard through her teeth until the worst of it passed. Focus. Get out. Check damage. Survive. She crawled toward the broken windscreen, dragging herself with her good arm. Glass cut through her gloves. Cold air poured into the cabin, stealing what little warmth remained. She squeezed through the opening and dropped onto the ice outside. The plane was destroyed. The right wing had torn completely off and lay 50 yards away. The fuselage was bent at an unnatural angle. Fuel was leaking from somewhere, creating a dark stain on the white ice. The cargo had broken free and scattered across the crash site. Amelia stood slowly, testing her weight. Everything hurt, but nothing was broken except maybe some ribs. She could walk. That was something. She looked around. The lake stretched in every direction, flat and white and enormous. The tree line was visible in the distance. Maybe 2 miles, maybe 3. Hard to judge distance on flat terrain with no reference points. The cold hit her then. Really hit her. The adrenaline was wearing off, and she was standing on a frozen lake at minus 18 degrees with inadequate clothing and no shelter except a wrecked airplane. She checked her watch. 2 in the afternoon. She'd been unconscious. How long? The crash happened around noon, she thought. Maybe an hour. Hard to say. Didn't matter. What mattered was getting the emergency beacon activated and gathering supplies before hypothermia set in. She climbed back into the wreckage to retrieve her survival kit. That's when she heard the sound that changed everything. Water. Trickling. Flowing. Impossible. It was March. The lake should be frozen solid for another month at least. She pressed her ear to the ice. The sound was unmistakable. Water moving underneath, and the ice beneath her boots felt wrong. Too thin. Too flexible. Amelia pulled herself back into the wreckage, moving faster now. Her hands shook. From cold or fear, she couldn't tell. Probably both. She found her survival kit strapped under the pilot's seat, miraculously intact. The orange dry bag was heavy, reassuring. She yanked it free and crawled back outside. The emergency locator beacon was mounted in the tail section. She picked her way across scattered cargo, testing each step carefully. The ice groaned beneath her weight. She froze, distributing her weight more evenly, then continued forward. The tail section had separated from the main fuselage during the crash. She found the beacon compartment crushed inward, metal bent at sharp angles. She pried it open with her knife. The beacon was inside, but the casing was cracked, and the antenna had snapped off completely. She pressed the activation button anyway. Nothing. No light, no sound. Dead. No! She shook it, pressed the button again, tried hitting it against her palm. Still nothing. The crash had destroyed it. Her satellite phone. She dug it out of her jacket pocket. The screen was shattered, spiderwebbed with cracks, but it powered on. 30% battery. She tried to place a call. No signal. She was in a dead zone, surrounded by mountains that blocked transmission. She tried anyway, holding the phone up, moving to different positions around the wreck. Nothing. She was 200 miles from civilization with no way to call for help. The ice groaned again. Louder this time. A deep, resonant sound that traveled through her boots into her bones. Amelia knelt and examined the ice more carefully. What she saw made her stomach drop. The surface was wet. Not snow-covered like it should be in March, but actively wet, with water pooling in low spots. She pulled out her knife and chipped at the ice. It broke away easily, in vertical crystals rather than solid chunks. Candled ice, the kind that formed when ice was actively melting and refreezing. She measured the thickness with her knife blade. 8 inches. Maybe 10 in spots. 8 inches. In March, this lake should have 3 feet of ice, minimum. Tom's words came back to her. Warm front moving in faster than predicted. Temperature might climb 20 degrees. She pulled out her thermometer from the survival kit. Minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit. It had been minus 25 when she took off. The temperature had risen 20 degrees in 6 hours. The warm front wasn't coming tomorrow. It was here now. She looked at the tree line again. 3 miles away, maybe more. 3 miles across ice that was actively melting beneath her feet. A crack appeared near her left boot. Hairline thin, but growing. Water welled up through it, spreading across the surface. Amelia's father had drilled wilderness survival into her from age 12. She could build shelter, start fire in any conditions, navigate by stars, trap small game. But he'd taught her one absolute rule about spring ice. Don't trust it, ever. Spring ice kills more people than winter ice because it looks solid when it's actually honeycomb. She had to move, now. But first she needed to take stock of what she had. The survival kit contained emergency supplies, but most of her gear was scattered across the crash site. She had minutes, not hours, to gather what she needed. She moved quickly, grabbing items and stuffing them into her pack. The survival kit held the basics: waterproof matches, fire starter, emergency blanket, first aid supplies, knife, compass, 50 feet of paracord, water purification tablets, and 2 energy bars. Amelia dumped everything onto the ice and started making brutal choices. The sleeping bag was too bulky. Leave it. Extra clothing. Take 1 spare layer, leave the rest. Tools scattered from the cargo. Take the hatchet, leave everything else. She grabbed her water bottle, still half full. The emergency flares. Absolutely take those. Someone might see them. She found a tarp wrapped around cargo near the tail section. Perfect. She could use it for shelter or to distribute her weight on thin ice. She folded it and tied it to her pack with paracord. Her left shoulder screamed every time she moved, but she forced herself to keep going. She fashioned a crude sling from paracord to immobilize the arm. It helped. Not much, but some. The ice cracked again. This time the sound was sharp, like a rifle shot. A visible fracture line spread from the main wreckage toward where she stood. No more time. Amelia pulled out her compass and took a bearing toward the nearest tree line. 270 degrees west. She marked it in her mind, checked it twice. If she lost the compass, she'd have nothing. She needed something to distribute her weight. Walking normally would put too much pressure on any single point. She looked at the wreckage. Aluminum panels, seat cushions, pieces of the broken wing. The wing struts, aluminum tubes, lightweight but strong. She pulled 2 free, each about 4 feet long. Using paracord, she lashed them crosswise to her boots, creating crude snowshoes. They weren't elegant, but they'd spread her weight across a larger surface area. She tested them. Awkward, but they worked. Each step felt like walking in swim fins. Before leaving, she opened the plane's logbook and tore out a page. With a pencil stub from her pocket, she wrote, March 15th, Amelia Shaw, Beaver 47T crashed, engine failure, heading west to tree line, ice failing. If you find this, tell Emma I love her. She tucked the note into a plastic bag from the first aid kit and left it on the pilot's seat where it might survive if the plane broke through. The wreckage had already settled deeper into the ice. What had been level with the surface was now in a slight depression, with water pooling around the floats. Amelia took one last look at her plane. 40 years old. She'd flown it for 5. It had never let her down until today, and even then it had gotten her down alive. She turned toward the tree line and started walking. The makeshift snowshoes made a shuffling sound against the wet ice. Water sloshed with every step. She moved slowly, testing each step before committing her full weight. The ice flexed beneath her, a sensation like walking on a waterbed. She'd covered maybe 50 yards when she heard it behind her. A deep, guttural crack, the sound of ice giving way. She turned. The tail section of her plane tilted sharply, nose lifting into the air. For a moment it balanced there, impossibly vertical. Then it slipped through the ice and disappeared into black water. Water rushed up through the hole, flooding across the ice surface. The remaining fuselage groaned, metal scraping against ice, then followed the tail section down. Air bubbled up violently as the plane sank. Within 30 seconds, nothing remained except dark water and floating debris. Amelia stared at the spot where her plane had been. Her livelihood, her connection to civilization, her shelter, gone. The ice beneath her feet shifted. She snapped back to reality and forced herself to move. The plane going through had destabilized everything around it. Cracks were spreading outward like a spider web, and she was standing too close to the epicenter. She shuffled forward on her makeshift snowshoes, moving as quickly as she dared. Every step was a gamble. The ice groaned constantly now, a living thing threatening to swallow her whole. A crack opened directly in her path. She stopped, watched water well up through the gap. It was only 6 inches wide, but growing. She couldn't jump it, not with the snowshoes and injured shoulder. She'd have to go around. She angled left, adding distance but finding more stable ice. Her breathing came hard and fast. The pain in her shoulder was constant now, a burning ache that radiated down her arm and up her neck. She'd taken hits before, dislocated her shoulder rock climbing when she was 23. Broke ribs in a car accident at 30. She knew pain. This was manageable. Had to be. She checked her compass. Still heading 270. Still on course. The tree line didn't seem any closer. Optical illusion on flat terrain. Distance was impossible to judge without reference points. She could be halfway there or barely started. No way to know except to keep moving. Water covered the entire ice surface now, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches deep. Her boots were soaked through. Her feet were already going numb. Frostbite was a real concern, but hypothermia would kill her first if she didn't reach land. Another crack, this one behind her, cutting off her retreat. Not that retreat was an option anymore. She fell into a rhythm. Step, test, step, test. Watch for dark patches that meant thin ice. Listen for the hollow sound that meant air pockets underneath. Keep moving forward because stopping meant dying. The sun was lower now. She checked her watch. 4:30. She'd been walking for nearly 2 hours and covered maybe half a mile. At this rate, she wouldn't reach the tree line before dark. And she absolutely could not be on this ice in darkness. She wouldn't be able to see the warning signs. She'd walk straight into a weak spot and go through. She had to move faster, but moving faster meant more risk, more pressure on compromised ice. No choice. She picked up her pace. The ice protested immediately. Cracks appeared with every step now, radiating outward from her feet. Water geysered up through some of them, spraying her legs. A section gave way under her right foot. Her leg plunged through up to the knee. Ice-cold water flooded her boot. She threw herself forward, catching herself with her good arm, spreading her weight across the tarp. She lay there for a moment, gasping, heart hammering. The water was shockingly cold. Even through her insulated pants, she could feel it leaching warmth from her leg. She pulled herself forward, dragging her leg out of the hole. Keep moving. No other option. This story takes time to craft. If you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Amelia pushed herself to her feet, testing her weight carefully. The snowshoe on her right foot had bent when she went through. The aluminum strut was twisted but still functional. Barely. She looked back at the hole. Water lapped at its edges, dark and menacing. Another 10 seconds lying there, and the ice around her would have given way completely. She'd gotten lucky. Luck wouldn't hold forever. She checked her bearing again. 270. The tree line looked closer now, maybe a mile and a half left. She could see individual trees, could make out the texture of the forest. So close. Might as well be on the moon. Her right leg was completely soaked. Water squished in her boot with every step. The cold was already working its way into muscle and bone. She had maybe an hour before the leg became useless. Maybe less. She forced herself forward. The ice was worse here, if that was possible. The surface was covered in 3 inches of standing water. In places, she could see through the ice to dark water flowing beneath. The entire lake was breaking up from the inside out. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Spring ice is a liar. Looks solid, feels solid, right up until it kills you. Trust nothing. She'd been 12 when he taught her ice safety. They'd been at a lake in early April, and she'd wanted to walk out to see a bird's nest on a small island. He'd grabbed her arm, held her back, then thrown a rock onto the ice. It had broken through like the ice was made of paper. That's how fast it happens, he'd said. No warning, no second chance. She wished he was here now. He died 4 years ago. Heart attack while flying a cargo run over the Mackenzies. Gone before the plane even crashed. She'd inherited his business, his plane, his reputation. She'd spent 4 years trying to live up to his legend. Now she was going to die on a frozen lake just like he'd warned her about. No. Stop it. She wasn't dead yet. She pushed the thought away and focused on the ice ahead. Dark patch to the right. Avoid it. Clear section straight ahead. Take it. Another crack opening to the left. Angle away. The wind picked up. It had been calm all day, but now it gusted across the open lake, cutting through her wet clothes. The temperature was dropping as the sun sank lower. -10, maybe -15. Cold enough to freeze her wet clothing into armor. Cold enough to kill her through exposure even if the ice held. She needed to reach land. Now. The makeshift snowshoes were falling apart. The paracord on the left one had loosened, and the strut was dragging. She stopped long enough to re-tie it, fingers clumsy with cold. The delay cost her precious minutes, but walking without them would be suicide. As she worked, she noticed something. The ice here felt different, thicker, more solid. She tested it with her knife, nearly a foot thick. She was getting close to shore. Ice was always thicker near land, where it was sheltered from currents and wind. Hope surged through her. Maybe she'd make it after all. That's when she heard the sound that made her blood run cold. A deep rumble. Not ice cracking. Something else. Something worse. She looked up. The entire center of the lake was collapsing. A quarter-mile behind her, the ice was breaking up in massive sections. Huge plates tilted and slid into dark water. The collapse was spreading outward in all directions, racing toward her like a living thing. Amelia ran. The snowshoes made running nearly impossible, but she didn't have time to remove them. She shuffled forward as fast as she could, legs pumping, arms swinging despite the agony in her shoulder. Water splashed with every step. The ice flexed and groaned beneath her weight. The tree line was close now, maybe half a mile. She could make out individual branches, see shadows between the trees. So close. The rumbling grew louder. She glanced back and immediately wished she hadn't. The collapse was gaining on her, eating up distance faster than she could move. Massive ice chunks were tipping vertical, sliding down into the water like dominoes falling in slow motion. She pushed harder. Her lungs burned. Her legs felt like concrete. The wet right leg especially. It was sluggish, responding a half-second late to her commands. Hypothermia setting in. A crack appeared directly ahead. She jumped it without thinking, landing hard on the other side. The impact sent lightning bolts of pain through her shoulder and ribs. She stumbled but kept moving. Another crack. Another jump. This one wider. She barely cleared it, her trailing foot breaking through the edge. She yanked it free and kept running. The ice beneath her feet was breaking up into smaller and smaller sections. Each step felt like stepping on floating puzzle pieces. They tilted and sank under her weight, water rushing over her boots. Quarter-mile to go. The collapse was right behind her now. She could hear individual ice sheets crashing into water, could feel the vibration through her feet. The entire lake was coming apart. She stumbled, fell hard, landed on her injured shoulder, and nearly blacked out from the pain. She forced herself up, vision swimming. No time. Keep moving. The snowshoe on her right foot finally gave up completely. The strut snapped and the whole assembly fell apart. She kicked it free and kept going with just the left one, limping badly now, half running and half falling forward. 200 yards. She could see the muddy shoreline now, see where ice met earth. Solid ground, safety, right there. The ice behind her exploded upward as a massive section broke free. The shock wave traveled through the lake, shattering everything in its path. The ice beneath Amelia's feet cracked in a perfect circle around her. She had 1 second to realize what was happening. Then she dropped through into the water. The cold hit her like a physical blow. Her body went rigid, every muscle seizing. Water closed over her head. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except feel the overwhelming cold. Her survival instinct kicked in before rational thought could return. She kicked upward, broke the surface, gasped for air. Her pack was dragging her down. The waterlogged tarp wrapped around her legs. She thrashed, trying to find the edge of the hole. Her hands hit ice, but it broke away when she tried to pull herself up. She tried again. Same result. The ice was too thin to support her weight. She was treading water in a hole in the middle of a collapsing lake, wearing heavy wet clothing, with an injured shoulder and hypothermia already setting in. She had maybe 3 minutes before her muscles stopped working entirely. Amelia forced her panic down. Panic burned oxygen. Panic made you thrash. Thrashing broke more ice and tired you out faster. She stopped fighting and let herself float for 2 seconds, assessing. The hole was roughly 6 feet across. The ice edges were thin and rotten, breaking away with any pressure. But farther out, maybe 8 feet from the hole, the ice looked thicker and darker. She needed to distribute her weight, needed to get horizontal, not vertical. She shrugged out of her pack with her good arm. It was nearly impossible with one shoulder useless and fingers already going numb, but she managed to slip one strap off, then the other. The pack started to sink immediately. She grabbed it, pulled out the tarp, and let the pack go. It disappeared into black water. Everything she had just sank. Matches, fire starter, food, first aid kit, all gone. But she still had the tarp. She spread it out on the ice in front of her, using both hands even though her left arm screamed in protest. The tarp was maybe 8 by 10 feet, heavy canvas. It lay flat on the surface, distributing weight across a larger area. She kicked hard, trying to get her upper body onto the tarp. The ice at the edge crumbled. She slipped back into the water. Her legs were barely responding now. The cold was shutting her body down, system by system. Her fingers had no feeling. Her thinking was getting fuzzy. She tried again, kicked with everything she had left, threw her right arm forward, grabbed the far edge of the tarp, pulled. Her body slid up onto the ice, stomach down, legs still in the water. The ice cracked beneath her, but didn't break. The tarp was working. She pulled again, dragging herself forward inch by inch. Her legs came up onto the ice. She lay flat, spreading her weight like a seal, gasping for air. She was out of the water but not out of danger. She was soaking wet in -10-degree weather. Her clothes would freeze solid in minutes. She'd be dead from exposure in 20. But she was closer to shore now, maybe 150 yards. She started crawling, pulled with her right arm, pushed with her legs, inched forward across the tarp. Every movement was agony. Her shoulder felt like someone was driving nails into the joint. Her ribs made breathing feel like being stabbed. She crawled 10 feet, 20. The ice held. Behind her, the collapse had slowed. Most of the center lake was open water now, but the edges were still intact. The destruction had stopped just short of where she'd gone through. She'd outrun it. Barely. 50 feet. Her vision was tunneling. She could see the shoreline, but it looked distant and dreamlike. Her body was shaking violently, uncontrollable shivers that made crawling even harder. 75 feet. Her right hand hit mud. Actual mud. She'd reached the shore. She crawled forward until her entire body was on solid ground, then collapsed. She lay there on frozen mud, shaking so hard her teeth rattled, soaking wet and colder than she'd ever been in her life. But alive. She'd crossed the lake. Against impossible odds, she'd made it. She rolled onto her back and stared at the gray sky. Her breath came in ragged gasps that turned to fog in the cold air. Emma's face appeared in her mind. Her daughter, 12 years old, waiting for her to come home. That thought got her moving again. Amelia forced herself to sit up. Every muscle protested. Her clothes were already stiffening as water froze in the fabric. She had minutes before hypothermia killed her. Maybe she was already past the point of no return, but she wouldn't know unless she tried. Fire. She needed fire immediately, but her matches were gone. Her fire starter was gone. Everything was at the bottom of the lake. She looked around desperately. The shoreline was a mix of mud, rocks, and sparse vegetation. Scraggly bushes, a few stunted trees. Behind that, denser forest rose up the hillside. She needed dry material, needed something to burn. Her brain felt sluggish, thoughts coming slow like molasses. Think. What did she have left? Her knife was still on her belt, her compass in her jacket pocket, the tarp, her wet clothes. Wait. Her jacket had a liner, synthetic insulation. It would burn even when wet. She pulled out her knife with numb fingers. The blade slipped twice before she got a proper grip. She cut into the jacket lining and pulled out handfuls of insulation. It was damp but not soaked through. She needed tinder, birch bark. She'd seen birch trees in the forest. Birch bark burned even when wet. The oils in it were natural fire starters. She stumbled to her feet. Her legs barely held her. The forest was 20 yards away. Might as well be 20 miles. She made it to the first birch tree and peeled strips of bark with her knife. The outer layer was wet, but underneath was dry and papery. Perfect. Dead wood. She needed dead branches that weren't touching the ground. Wood that had stayed dry despite the weather. She found some on a spruce tree, dead lower branches still attached. She broke them off, gathering an armful, back to the shoreline. She needed shelter from the wind, found a slight depression behind some rocks. She arranged the materials, birch bark at the bottom, insulation from her jacket on top, small twigs in a teepee formation, larger branches ready to add once it caught. Now the hard part, starting the fire without matches. Her father had taught her friction methods, bow drill, hand drill. She'd practiced them dozens of times. But that was with dry wood and full use of both hands. She tried anyway, found a flat piece of wood for the base, a straight stick for the spindle, used her bootlace as the bowstring, set it up one-handed, bracing the base with her knee. She started pulling the bow back and forth. The spindle spun, grinding into the base. Smoke appeared after 30 seconds. She kept going, pulling faster. The smoke thickened. She kept drilling, faster, harder. A coal formed in the base, a tiny glowing ember. She carefully transferred it to the birch bark and insulation, cupping her hands around it, blowing gently. The ember glowed brighter. Smoke rose, then flame. Small at first, barely there, but growing. The birch bark caught, then the insulation. Yellow flames spread through the tinder. She added twigs carefully. They smoked and steamed, but eventually caught. Larger branches went on top. Within 5 minutes, she had a real fire. Amelia huddled as close to the flames as she dared. The heat felt incredible, almost painful against her frozen skin. Steam rose from her wet clothes. She knew she should strip them off, wring them out. But she didn't have the strength. Not yet. She fed the fire steadily, adding larger pieces of wood as it grew. The flames climbed higher, crackling and popping. Warmth began to penetrate her clothing. Her shaking intensified. That was actually good. It meant her body was still trying to warm itself. When the shaking stopped, that's when you were dying. She held her hands close to the fire, turning them slowly. Her fingers were white and waxy. Frostbite. How bad she wouldn't know until they thawed. 20 minutes by the fire, and she could think more clearly. The fog in her brain was lifting. She took inventory of her situation. She was alive. That was the main thing. She had fire, the single most important survival tool. She had her knife and compass. She had the tarp for shelter. What she didn't have, food, water purification, first aid supplies, signaling devices, her satellite phone, everything at the bottom of the lake. She was injured, separated shoulder, cracked ribs, possible concussion, frostbite on her hands and feet. She was in the middle of nowhere, 200 miles from civilization, with no way to call for help. And nobody knew where she was. The radio had died before she could give her exact position. Search and rescue would be looking, but they'd be searching hundreds of square miles. The crashed plane might have been visible from the air, but it was at the bottom of a lake now. No wreckage to spot. She was on her own. The fire had grown enough that she risked stripping off her outer layer. Her jacket came off first, ruined now, with insulation cut out, but it had saved her life. She wrung it out and hung it on a stick near the fire. Her pants next. Getting them off with one good arm was a nightmare, but she managed. She sat in her thermal underwear, boots and socks, feeding the fire and letting warmth seep back into her body. The sun was setting now. Temperature would drop fast once darkness fell. She needed better shelter than just an open fire. She used the tarp to construct a crude lean-to against a rock outcrop, angling it to reflect heat from the fire back toward her. It wasn't much, but it would trap warmth and block wind. Wood. She needed more wood, enough to keep the fire going all night. She forced herself up and gathered deadfall from the forest. Each trip brought an armful of branches. She made 10 trips, building a pile that should last until morning. By the time she finished, full darkness had fallen. Her fire blazed bright against the blackness, a tiny bubble of warmth in the vast wilderness. She crawled into her lean-to and sat with her back against the rock, feeding branches into the flames. Her stomach cramped with hunger. She had no food. Water was the immediate priority. She could survive weeks without food, but only days without water. Eating snow would lower her core temperature. She needed to melt it with fire first. She had no container. Then she remembered something her father taught her: rock boiling. She found a rock near the fire with a natural bowl shape. She filled it with snow, packing it tight. Then she heated stones in the fire until they glowed red. Using 2 sticks as tongs, she transferred a hot stone into the snow. It hissed and steamed. She repeated the process until she had a depression filled with water. She let it cool, then drank. The water tasted like smoke and stone, but it was liquid. Food was a bigger problem. She was burning calories at an incredible rate. She needed fuel. She had her knife. In theory, she could trap small game. But that took time she might not have. Think. What was available right now? Inner bark from trees was edible. Pine needles could be made into tea, vitamin C, and calories. She cut strips of inner bark from a nearby pine. The cambium layer was soft and slightly sweet. She chewed it slowly. It was like eating woody, pine-flavored paper, but it was calories. She gathered pine needles and added them to her rock bowl with more hot stones. The resulting tea was bitter and resinous, but warm. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough, but it would keep her alive through the night. Her clothes had dried somewhat by the fire. She put them back on, still damp in places, but better than wet. Her hands had regained some feeling. The frostbite wasn't as bad as she'd feared. Her fingertips were white and numb, but she could still move them. Her left shoulder was a different story. The pain had evolved to a deep, grinding ache. She needed to immobilize it better. She cut strips from the tarp and fashioned a proper sling, binding her arm tight against her body. She sat by the fire, feeding it branches, watching sparks spiral into the darkness. Above, stars blazed in a sky so clear it looked infinite. Emma would be worried by now. Amelia had promised to call when she landed. When the call didn't come, Emma would contact the airport. They'd start looking. But where would they look? She'd gone down off course. There were hundreds of lakes in this region. She tried to calculate how long search and rescue would take. The weather officer knew she'd been heading to Eagle Creek. That gave them a corridor to search. But engine failure could have pushed her off course in any direction. 20 miles, 50. The search area would be massive. Standard protocol was to search along the flight path first, then expand outward in a grid pattern. With good weather, they could cover maybe 500 square miles per day. But if weather turned bad, they'd be grounded. And winter weather in the Yukon turned bad frequently. She had to assume rescue would take at least 3 days. Maybe a week. Maybe longer. Could she survive a week out here with no supplies? The honest answer was probably not. She was already injured and hypothermic. She had no food except bark and pine needles. No shelter except a tarp lean-to. No medical supplies for her injuries. Every day would weaken her further, but she had survived this far. That counted for something. She thought about her daughter again. Emma was staying with Amelia's sister in Whitehorse while she made the supply run. Her sister would keep Emma calm, would shield her from the worst of the worry. But Emma was smart. She'd know something was wrong. Amelia had made Emma a promise years ago, after her ex-husband left. She'd promised she would always come home, no matter what. She'd kept that promise through 5 years of bush flying, through storms and mechanical failures and close calls. She intended to keep it now. The fire crackled and popped, sending sparks swirling into the night. She fetted another branch and pulled the tarp tighter around her shoulders. The temperature was still dropping. Her breath came out in thick clouds of fog. She would rest tonight, conserve energy. At first light, she'd assess her options. Maybe she could signal aircraft. Maybe she could hike toward civilization. Maybe she'd think of something she was missing now. For now, she was alive. The fire was burning. She had shelter from the wind. It was enough. She closed her eyes, knowing sleep would be difficult with the pain and cold. But she had to try. Her body needed rest to heal. She'd need every ounce of strength for whatever tomorrow brought. Dawn came gray and cold. Amelia woke to find frost covering her tarp shelter and ice crystals in her hair. The fire had burned down to coals. She'd woken every hour to feed it, but exhaustion had stolen precious sleep between. She sat up slowly, testing her injuries. Her shoulder was worse, swollen and hot to the touch. Her ribs screamed with every breath. The frostbite on her fingers had progressed from white to an angry red. Not good, but not black either. She rebuilt the fire, coaxing flames from the coals with dry bark and twigs. Once it was burning strong, she melted more snow for water. She was desperately thirsty, her body dehydrated from exposure. The rock boiling method worked again. She drank a full bowl of water, then another. Her stomach cramped. She'd had nothing but pine bark and bitter tea in almost 24 hours. She needed protein, needed fat, needed actual calories. She studied the forest around her. March in the Yukon meant most animals were still hibernating or had moved to lower elevations. But there were always exceptions. Snowshoe hares, squirrels, maybe grouse if she got lucky. She had her knife. She had paracord from the tarp edges. She could make snares. It took an hour to set up 3 snares along what looked like rabbit trails, small paths through the underbrush where snow was packed down. She bent saplings to create tension, rigged loops of paracord, set the triggers carefully. The work exhausted her. Her good arms shook from effort. She had to stop twice to rest, fighting dizziness. Back at her shelter, she forced herself to eat more pine bark. It sat heavy in her stomach, providing minimal nutrition. Then she heard it, faint but unmistakable, the drone of an aircraft engine. She scrambled out of the lean-to, scanning the sky. There, to the south, a small plane, maybe 3 miles away, flying a search pattern. They were looking for her. She grabbed green branches and threw them on the fire. Thick white smoke billowed up immediately. She waved her jacket overhead, shouting even though she knew they couldn't hear her. The plane continued its pattern. Straight line, turn, straight line, turn. Methodical grid search. But it was moving away from her. No, they had to see the smoke. She ran to grab. No, her pack was gone. The flares were at the bottom of the lake. She had nothing to signal with except smoke and her orange jacket. She waved frantically, jumping despite the pain in her ribs, screaming until her voice went hoarse. The plane continued its pattern, moving farther away with each pass. Then it banked, changed direction, started coming back. They'd seen something. Maybe the smoke, maybe the reflection off the lake. The plane flew directly overhead, maybe 1,000 feet up. She could see the markings. Civil Air Patrol, search and rescue. She waved her jacket with everything she had. The plane circled once, twice, dipped its wings. They'd seen her. Relief washed over Amelia so powerfully, her legs buckled. She dropped to her knees in the snow, jacket still clutched in her hand, watching the plane circle above. They'd found her. After everything, they'd actually found her. The plane circled 3 more times, then flew off to the south. Going to call in her position, a helicopter would come. Maybe an hour, maybe 2. She was going to make it home. The helicopter arrived 90 minutes later. Amelia heard it before she saw it, the distinctive thump of rotor blades echoing off the hills. She'd kept the signal fire burning high, adding green branches every few minutes. The helicopter circled her position once, then set down 50 yards from her shelter. 2 figures jumped out, a pilot and a paramedic in bright orange suits. The paramedic reached her first. "Amelia Shaw." She nodded, not trusting her voice. "I'm Derek. We're going to get you out of here. Can you walk?" "Yes." Her voice came out as a croak. Shoulders separated, some ribs cracked, frostbite on my hands and feet. Derek did a quick assessment, checking her vitals. "You're hypothermic. Core temp is low. We need to get you warmed up. Can you make it to the helicopter?" "I can make it." The pilot appeared with a stretcher, but Amelia waved it off. She'd walked off that lake on her own 2 feet. She'd walked to the helicopter the same way. Derek supported her on one side, the pilot on the other. They moved slowly across the snow. Inside the helicopter, they wrapped her in heated blankets and started an IV. The warmth was almost painful. Derek monitored her vitals while the pilot lifted off, banking south toward Whitehorse. "You're one tough lady," Derek said over the headset. "We've been searching since yesterday afternoon. When we didn't find wreckage along your flight path, we thought..." He trailed off. "Thought I was dead." "Yeah, engine failure over this terrain. Most people don't walk away." "I almost didn't." She looked out the window at the landscape passing below. Endless forest, frozen lakes, mountains. "My plane went through the ice. Everything I had went with it. But you made fire, built shelter. That's what saved you." The flight took 30 minutes. Amelia drifted in and out of awareness, exhausted and pain-medicated. She saw the outskirts of Whitehorse appear below, then the hospital landing pad. Medical personnel surrounded the helicopter as it touched down. They transferred her to a gurney. Then she was moving through corridors, bright lights overhead, voices asking questions. A doctor appeared, young, efficient. "Ms. Shaw, I'm Dr. Patel. We're going to take care of you. Your daughter is here. She's been waiting since yesterday." "Emma," Amelia tried to sit up. "I need to see her." "You will, right after we stabilize you. She knows you're alive." They wheeled her into an examination room, cut away her clothes, started warming protocols, x-rays for her shoulder and ribs, blood work. Through it all, one thought kept repeating: she'd made it. Against impossible odds, she'd made it home. 2 hours later, cleaned up and bandaged and wearing a hospital gown, Amelia sat in a bed when the door opened. Emma burst through, her sister right behind her. "Mom!" Her daughter crashed into her, careful of the IV lines and the sling, but holding on like she'd never let go. Amelia wrapped her good arm around Emma and held her tight. "I'm okay, baby. I'm okay." "You promised you'd come home." "I did. I kept my promise." 3 days later, Amelia was cleared to go home. The doctors had reset her shoulder, taped her ribs, treated the frostbite. She'd lose the tip of her left pinky finger and part of 2 toes, but everything else would heal. The hypothermia had caused no permanent damage. She sat in her living room, Emma curled up beside her on the couch. Emma hadn't left her side since she'd come home, slept in Amelia's bed, followed her from room to room. Her sister Sarah brought them tea. The insurance adjuster called. "They're covering the plane loss. Full replacement value." Amelia nodded. The plane had been insured for $200,000. "There's something else," Sarah said. The Transportation Safety Board finished their investigation. The carburetor heat cable had corroded through. Your mechanic missed it during the last inspection. "So it wasn't my fault?" "No, equipment failure." Emma squeezed her hand. "Does this mean you'll fly again?" "I don't know, baby. I don't want you to." Emma's voice was small. "I thought you were dead, Mom." Amelia pulled her daughter closer. "I know, I'm so sorry. Promise me you won't fly anymore." It was a promise Amelia couldn't make. Flying wasn't just what she did, it was who she was. "I promise I'll think about it," she said finally. "Really think about it. And whatever I decide, your safety comes first. Always." Emma nodded, not entirely satisfied, but accepting it was the best answer she'd get. A week later, Amelia drove to the airport, just to visit. Emma stayed home with Sarah. Her daughter wasn't ready to watch her mother near planes yet. The hangar smelled like aviation fuel and oil. Familiar, comforting, triggering all at once. Tom met her there, along with Carlos Martinez, another bush pilot she'd known for years. "How you holding up?" Carlos asked. "Still here. That's something." They walked her through the hangar, past other aircraft. She touched a wing strut, felt the cold metal. Her hands shook slightly. "The lake's still frozen," Tom said. "They're planning a recovery operation in June when it thaws. Might be able to salvage some equipment." Amelia nodded. She didn't care about the equipment. The plane was gone. "So what now?" Carlos asked. "You buying another Beaver? Getting back up there?" That was the question everyone kept asking. Her insurance money was sitting in the bank. She could buy a plane tomorrow. "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me wants to. Part of me never wants to see a cockpit again." "That's normal," Carlos said. "I crashed in '09. Took me 6 months before I could sit in a plane without panic. Now I've got 3,000 hours since then." "But you went back up." "Yeah, because I'm a pilot. It's what I am. You either are or you aren't. The crash doesn't change that." Amelia looked at the planes around her. Decades of aviation history. Pilots who'd crashed and died. Pilots who'd crashed and returned. "My daughter's terrified I'll do it again," she said quietly. "She should be," Tom said. "Bush flying is dangerous. Always has been. Your dad knew that. But the communities up there need pilots. Medicine, supplies, emergency transport. Without pilots like you, people die." It was true she'd delivered insulin to diabetics in remote camps, flown injured miners to hospitals, brought supplies to communities cut off by winter storms. Her work mattered, but so did staying alive for Emma. "Take your time," Carlos said. "The decision will come when it's ready." That night, after Emma had fallen asleep, Amelia stood at her window looking out at Whitehorse. Somewhere out there, 200 miles away, her plane rested at the bottom of a frozen lake. She'd survived with nothing but a knife, a compass, and the skills her father had taught her. Her phone buzzed, a text from Tom. "Glad you made it back. Your dad would be proud." Amelia smiled. Yeah, he would be. She didn't know yet if she'd fly again, but she knew she'd survived something that should have killed her. She'd walked across a melting lake, built fire from nothing, and made it home to her daughter. Whatever came next, she could handle it. The Yukon had tested her, and she'd passed. If this story meant something to you, drop a comment and share it. It helps the next person find their way here.